Why don't you look up?
Question number 3, Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. My question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what reports has he received on progress the New Zealand economy is making in reducing its external debt position?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the latest balance of payments data issued by Statistics New Zealand shows New Zealand is making some good progress in reducing its external debt. Our net external debt fell by $900 million in the December quarter of 2014 to 59.4% of GDP. That's the lowest level for 11 years. In addition, the maturity profile of New Zealand's external debt has lengthened considerably, which means we're less vulnerable to short-term changes in global financial markets. The report also shows the current account deficit for the year to December was 3.3% of GDP. While this was an increase on the previous quarter, largely due to falling dairy prices, the deficit is much less than half of that delivered by the previous government in the late 2000s.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
How is the savings behaviour of households contributing to New Zealand's overall improving debt position?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, households are making a positive contribution to New Zealand's improving overall position. In fact, households have had positive savings now for 5 consecutive years in the years to March, 5 years to March 2014. That has not happened since the early 1990s. The Statistics New Zealand figures show that before 2010, for that period from 1995 to 2010, household savings had been negative in all but 1 year. Household savings totalled $11.6 billion over the last 5 years, a major turnaround on the $15.5 billion net borrowing over the 5 years previously. This is a result of resilience by households and government policy that is encouraging savings and a rebalancing of the economy.
Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
What economic factors have influenced the ability of households to make these household savings?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the growing economy is continuing to support more jobs and higher incomes. Statistics New Zealand figures show that in 2014 there were 80,000 new jobs created across the country. Average wages rose 2.5% last year. Since this government came into office in late 2008, average wages have increased by more than 20% to 56,000, compared to the rate of inflation, which over the same period went up around 11%. In December 2014, the labour market participation rate increased to a record 69.7%, and unemployment at 5.7% is lower than most other developed economies. The growing economy is helping New Zealand families in many ways, but the government still has more work to do to drive further gains for the longer term.
Supplementary question, Dr. David Clark.
Can he confirm that this government has borrowed more money than Muldoon's, in fact more money than any other government in New Zealand history?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, no, I don't have those numbers for the member today, but I would say to him, given we had the global financial crisis and the Canterbury earthquakes, it would make sense to have borrowed some money, and given the value of the New Zealand dollar now compared to then, that would also make a difference. If the member is suggesting that we shouldn't have borrowed for the Canterbury earthquakes, that would be news to the people of Christchurch. And if he considers we shouldn't have borrowed for the global financial crisis, that would have been news to vulnerable New Zealanders.
Supplementary question, Dr. Shane Reeting.
How is the growing economy helping regions such as Northland?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Good question, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Minister of Finance, recent figures across a range of indicators highlight the benefits to regions like Northland from the government's strong economic management. In particular, strong GDP growth above the national average in the year to March 2014, 7,500 new jobs in the region across a range of roles in the last year, including 6,600 full-time positions. That's the second highest employment growth in the country for the December quarter last year, are all strong signs of a positive turnaround under this government in the Northland region. But of course, we are not done, and will continue to help regions through initiatives such as the Korean Free Trade Agreement, which will deliver real benefits to exporters in regions like Northland, allowing them to invest more, invest in more jobs and deliver higher wages.
Supplementary question, David Seymour.
How would New Zealand's net external indebtedness be affected by a large increase in low-quality government spending and therefore the non-tradable sector, as it did between 2004 and 2009?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, it's a very good question the member raises, and he's right to raise the period 2004 to 2009, because what we saw was a big increase in low-quality spending, a big increase in external debt, a crowding out of the private sector, and big increases of our net international liabilities towards 80–85% of GDP.
Question number 4. Jacinda Ardern.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Internal Affairs and asks, how